TBR has been a little nebulous lately, but I think I actually have a pretty good idea of what I want to do for the end of the year. So this is me documenting it so I can see if I actually did that. So the first thing is I'm going to finish what I'm reading, which is a short story collection called Buffalo is the New Buffalo, which is the book club pick for the University Book Club. And for September, I'm going to be doing a lot of short stories and a lot of standalones. One of those standalones I actually learned is not a standalone. It's book one in a series, but everyone just treated it like a standalone, so I thought it was. This is a collection of short stories, so that does count on that. And then I'm going to do Blood Over Bright Heaven. Future Jake here. Yeah, it's Blood Over Bright Haven. I was saying heaven for like months, years. I realized I had the title wrong on page 2. Anyway, this book was awesome. Is going to be the book I read next by M.L. Wong. I have obviously read The Sword of Kaigan, and I have heard this is maybe not as brilliant as the most brilliant parts of Sword of Kaigan, but I've also heard that it's a little like tighter and doesn't have like the flaws that Sword of Kaigan has. I'm pretty damn excited for that because Sword of Kaigan is genius, and I've also heard very good things about Blood Over Bright Heaven. Then I'm going to do Stories of Your Life and Others by Ted Chiang. I have read Exhalation. I thought Exhalation was amazing. This is one of those that feels like it keeps being like 10th on my TBR but never makes it. I almost ended up like I was going to read it next, and then I was on vacation and I saw The Dispossessed in a store, and I was like, oh yeah, this is the club read. I actually could buy this and read it in time, and then I haven't read it since. After that, we're going to go back to a standalone, which will be my first Robert McCannon book, which I'm going to read Boy's Life by Robert McCannon. My fancy edition finally arrived. I was going to do the first Matthew Corbray book if I got it before I got this, but I didn't. So I do really want to read this. I have heard very good things. What's up, Colton? What's up, Kev? So hopefully I like it so they don't have to murder me. And then it will be The Hidden Girl and Other Stories by Ken Liu. Ken Liu is obviously one of my favorite authors. Dandelion Dynasty is one of my favorite series. Paper Menagerie and Other Stories was brilliant, so this should be a no-brainer. And then the one I thought was a standalone was Heroes Die by Matthew Stover. The worst cover art ever. Sorry. It's actually, the funny thing is, if you look at just the art on the internet, like the full art, it's not that bad. It's just they zoomed in on the worst part of the art and then blocked it out with white for who knows what reason. I probably won't read all of those in September, but I optimistically want to. So after that, I'm going to reread Rhythm of War. I have not reread Rhythm of War before. I've only read it once, so I will be doing this physically. I'm also on audio. Josh and Johanna are doing the Sarantine Mosaic, and I'm going to go talk about it. So I'm going to do those on audio, and then I'm probably going to do like Before They Are Hanged. And maybe something else on audio. I might do Seven Surrenders. I'm doing Two Like the Lightning on audio right now because I needed something that was free because I ran out of credits. And very obviously, I'm just going to mention it with Rhythm of War. I'm going to read Wind and Truth. I've read the first 25% because there is an arc available on NetGalley. It was really good. So yeah, that's going to be in December. But Rhythm of War is going to be in October. And then for the rest of the year, of October is probably going to be mostly dedicated towards finishing this trilogy at least and reading at least the next 2. I only own this one right now, books 2 and 3, The Warrior Prophet and The Thousandfold Thought. I might have said those backwards, are on the way, and I should be reading both of those in October. And then it's worth noting for September, the book club book is Left Hand of Darkness, which I read this year, so I'm not going to reread it again for the club. And then the book for October is A Memory Called Empire, which I read and just don't feel like rereading. So I don't have a book club book for either of those months. So I do have a little bit more room. And then for November, the book is A Cantable for Leboit. I have no idea how to pronounce that. A Cantable for Leboit. I don't know. Whatever. It's a classic sci-fi book, and it's very short. And then basically the plan for the year other than that is I've got for like October, November, and December. I guess these are reasonably long, but then I've got Rhythm of War and Wind and Truth, which are both very long. And I'm also hoping to read Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell in November. And then for the rest of November and December, I think I'm just going to read, like, there's a ton of short books that I keep pushing off that I'm like, I could read that super quickly. And I'm going to try and read as many of them as possible and kind of stat pad the amount of books I read this year. So I'll read The Ice Dragon by George Martin for sure. I'm going to read at least one Ursula K. Le Guin novella or short novel. I think I'll read The Word for World is Forest. I'm going to read A Monster Calls by Patrick Ness for sure. I'm going to read Untethered Sky by Fonda Lee for sure. I think I'm going to try, thank you Evie for getting me this. I've got the Guy Gavriel Kay's poetry book. I normally don't do poetry, but I figure if I'm going to try, I might as well try with Kay. And then I also want to read The Shawshank Redemption by Stephen King. Sorry, Rita Hayworth and The Shawshank Redemption, which is my favorite movie and I haven't read, which is a little shameful. And then some short, but not quite as short books. I've got The Road, Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, A Man Called Uwe, whatever, and then there were none. So the idea is basically for like December and November, it's going to be like Wind and Truth and Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell. Wind and Truth and Rhythm of War are both longer than Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell. I'm expecting Wind and Truth to take me shorter than the average book takes me because I'm going to read it insanely fast. There's going to be a plane ride in there because I am going to Dragonsteel. And historically, I read New Stormlight releases extremely quickly. I read Oathbringer in like 28 hours after it came out, and Rhythm of War 34 hours. Both of those I had read the pre-release chapters, but I've read the pre-release chapters for Wind of Truth as well. So I'd be surprised if I've not done that within like 3 days of it coming out. I'm expecting Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell to probably take me like 2 weeks, because it's pretty long, and I'm not expecting to binge it. But then I'm going to make up for that, and I'm just going to read a ton of short books. Because there's all these short books that have just been sitting on my TBR, and I'm like, oh, I'll bang those out in a couple days eventually. And I'm like, what if I just did them all rapid fire back to back? So I feel similar. That's kind of, we're doing a bunch of like cleaning here. There's a bunch of stuff like standalone short story collections and just short books. And then on the other hand, this is all stuff that's been on my TBR for a long time. Because Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell is the opposite. Where I'm like, I keep meaning to read that, but it's just too long. So we're going to do that and all the short ones at the same time, so they counterbalance each other. Anyway, let me know if you think I'm lying to you all, or if I will actually succeed at reading all of these in the calendar year of 2024.